OpenAI just showed off a model family that could redraw the coding race, but the catch is who gets to touch it first. Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. It's June 28th, 2026.
Today we've got the GPT-5.6 preview and the government access restrictions around it, Anthropic getting a new approval for Claude, and Google making a move that could matter a lot for agents and developers.
Let's start with the OpenAI preview because this is the story everyone's going to be arguing about first.
The benchmark number that jumps out is Terminal Bench 2.1. OpenAI says Sol Ultra hit 91.9%, and Sol itself scored 88.8, which puts it ahead of Claude 5 in that test.
That's not just a bragging rights stat. Command line work is where coding agents prove whether they can actually do useful work, not just talk about it. And the pricing tells its own story. OpenAI is clearly trying to separate the expensive frontier work from the everyday stuff. Sol at $5 in and 30 out per million tokens, Terra at $250 in and 15 out, and Luna at 1 and 6.
What's also new here is the safety posture. OpenAI says it's its most robust safeguard stack yet, with layered refusals, real-time cyber and biology classifiers, account-level review, and a lot of red teaming behind it.
That lines up with the restricted access. The model is being launched like a controlled capability, not a public fireworks show.
Right, and that's why the government piece matters. Reuters and the Straits Times both reported that OpenAI deferred the public rollout while the U.S. sought early access to frontier models.
So the story isn't just new model released, it's new model arrives inside a policy checkpoint.
That sets a precedent. If frontier models keep shipping first to trusted partners and government reviewers, the launch process itself becomes part of the product. And if OpenAI's new tiers really hold up in the wild, we may see developers choosing between speed, cost, and maximum reasoning the way they already choose between cloud instances.
Switching gears to Anthropic because they just got their own green light, and it matters in a very similar way.
The interesting part is that the approval is not the same as a clean, universal launch. NDTV framed it as release to trusted partners, and the same underlying event was also reported as Claude 5 coming back online after being taken offline weeks earlier. That tells you the guardrails are still very real.
And the market angle is simple. Anthropic wants to keep the premium brand intact. If OpenAI is advertising tiers and throughput, Anthropic is advertising caution, access control, and partner readiness. Those are different sales pitches, but they're both aimed at the same buyers.
One more thing, this is now a pattern. First, the model gets restricted, then the company negotiates access back into the market. That process is becoming almost as important as the model release itself.
Speaking of platform moves, Google just put a sharper edge on Gemini with a new API direction for agents.
That word, interface, is doing a lot of work. If Google can make the Gemini layer feel like the obvious place to route agentic tasks, that's a long game move, because whoever owns the default control plane can shape the whole developer workflow.
And it lands in the middle of a week where everyone else is racing on model quality. So Google's message is basically, yes, the models matter, but the developer path matters too. That's often how ecosystems win before benchmark bragging rights even settle.
On a related note, Anthropic isn't just selling models, it's building a partner network around them. Cint said it's joining Anthropic's Claude Partner Network, which is the kind of quietly important enterprise news that can matter a lot more than a flashy launch post.
Exactly. Partner ecosystems are where models get embedded into real work. A logo on a press release doesn't sound dramatic, but it can mean consulting, implementation, and recurring deployment work that keeps Claude in the conversation after the benchmark cycle is over.
The big takeaway there is that enterprise AI is becoming a distribution game as much as a model game. If Anthropic can keep stacking credible partners while its top model stays under controlled access, it could still win deals that don't care about who had the loudest launch day.
Before we close, there's one more strategic angle worth flagging, the infrastructure race underneath all of this. SoftBank's Son is now openly challenging Musk's orbital data center vision, which sounds wild until you remember every frontier model story eventually runs into the same question: where does the compute actually live?
And that's the thread tying today together. Model quality is still racing forward, but access, distribution, and infrastructure are deciding who actually gets to use it. OpenAI is segmenting the product line and negotiating around government scrutiny. Anthropic is restoring access with guardrails and partners, and Google is trying to own the agent layer. The next phase of AI competition looks less like a single launch and more like a system of gates, channels, and bottlenecks, and that's where the real leverage is going to be.
Over in the silicon world, Lithography is trying to make one of the hardest parts of chip manufacturing a lot more predictable.
That's a big deal, because the smaller the process node gets, the less room there is for close enough.
Exactly. This is about turning lithography from a black art into something the model can reason through step by step. If it works, fabs get a better way to anticipate how a layout becomes a real wafer pattern, and that means fewer expensive misfires.
And in chips, fewer misfires isn't just a nice to have, it's yield, cost, and speed all at once.
Right, and this is the kind of AI story that doesn't live in the chatbot layer. It lives underneath everything, in the physics that makes the whole industry possible. On the hardware side, this one isn't a chip launch, but it does affect the entire AI supply chain. OpenAI is reportedly leading towards delaying its IPO until 2027 in a standoff over valuation.
$1 trillion target is such a wild marker. It tells you how much faith is riding on the sector.
It really does. The choice is basically speed versus ambition: list sooner and accept a lower price, or wait and try to preserve that giant valuation goal.
And with markets this jumpy, waiting can be strategic, but it can also mean living with a lot more uncertainty.
Exactly. Even though this isn't silicon in the literal sense, it's part of the same ecosystem that fuels the hardware race: capital, timing, and how much the market is willing to underwrite the next phase of AI scale. And to end on a lighter note, well, lighter in the sense that it's a window into internet culture, researchers are taking a hard look at how AI nudification content shows up in anonymous communities.
Not light, obviously, but it is one of those studies that shows how quickly a tool becomes a social problem.
Exactly. The interesting part is the community dynamics: who asks for it, how it spreads, and how the target pool has widened beyond the usual celebrity examples. That's the picture for today. We'll keep watching the launches, the approvals, and the platform moves as they land. This has been your Midnight Signal. See you in 24 hours.